True that. Okay, so we should probably get started.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
seriously.
Okay.
You're listening to the 54665, all things rural economic development, all things amazing, and all things for Hookwoof. Yes, we are with Ms. Carolyn Zick. Carolyn, talk about yourself.
Well, I'm here recording a podcast.
And talk about yourself into the microphone.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
probably would help. Yeah, Nora talked it up saying that I had experience with this, and so I'm really glad no one can see how red my face is. Not
Oh,
knowing
no.
how to
Oh,
use
you
a
don't have to be
microphone.
nervous.
Be serious.
It's all good.
You don't.
Yeah, we have no idea what we're doing.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'll bury it in segues and bad humor.
Good.
Yeah,
That's
go
what
ahead.
he's here.
Yeah, it's all good.
Exactly.
Diversions.
Levity.
Yay. Well, my background is in small business obsession. I grew up with two parents who both owned small businesses. My dad is a farmer, grain farmer in Illinois, and my mom owned an accounting firm for years and years. And so I thought it was weird when parents couldn't just stop and like show up for stuff in the middle of the day. They're like, oh no, my parents can't come to that thing at school. They have to work. And I was like, so do mine, but they just do whatever they want.
Right.
So growing up with that, I just always had that obsession instilled in me. And I really like design and art and marketing. So the natural progression for me was sort of to embrace that and develop a small business marketing company that happened sort of as an accident, but it's called Bad Axe Enterprises, and I've run that out of my home for almost 5 years now. Just pretty small scale, really focusing in on those needs that all small business owners face. Like if you ask a small business owner, what do you need? They're like, I don't know how to advertise.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that is how that was sort of born. And because of that, I had a business bank account at Bank of Cashton.
Nice.
And some of the staff there found out what my business does. And they were like, hey, well, we need a marketer. And I got a day job out of it, a part-time day job at Bank of Cashton, where I am the director of communications.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And that's how we met.
And that's how we met. Like, I mean, I stalked you a lot online.
Oh my.
Yeah, you've used the word obsession and stalk so
No.
far in this
Oh,
podcast.
yes. Yep, that's for posterity. Everybody needs
Keeping
to
it
know.
creepy.
Yeah, that's actually like my life goal. I have a back tattoo, like a really large. It says that.
It says keeping it creepy.
Keeping it creepy.
Nice.
Totally.
Awesome. That's great. Well, we have that in common.
Excellent.
Right. So we're gonna
Disease,
segue into
Oh, you wanna segue now?
yeah, we're gonna segue into some social media information.
Yes.
So the reason that we have you here today is because you are a pretty awesome social media person. So let's talk about Facebook and Instagram specifically. There's so many people that think that they understand how to do social media and that because it's a free tool that they can just take it and run with it and that is all that they need to do. Let's talk about social media and how to do it
Yeah, because I've got some
correctly
questions.
and how to do it incorrectly.
Good questions. Well, one of the big things I think that a lot of people kind of miss is just being intentional with the use of social media, whether it's like on a personal level or as a business, measuring what you're putting out there and thinking of not only the consequences of if you post creepy pictures of your back tattoo, but
Word.
right. You've got to think as a business, like, what are you putting out there? Is it resonating with I think the biggest thing that I see is business owners are putting great content out, but it is literally only resonating with other people in their industry. So one example, I have some friends who own a machining shop and they were putting out really cool stuff if you were also a machinist, and which, if you're looking to make other contacts in the industry, that's a great stream of content to put out. But they were looking for clients, not other industry contacts. So they had to kind of do a pivot
Sure.
on that. So just really being intentional, knowing what your goal is with using social media, not just being like, I'm just going to not have a website and just use this and just blast the public with everything.
Right. That's one of the questions that I want to hit. How much is too much? Because I think in this world, like I see a lot from the food sideline, right? Like, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine in Milwaukee who also is a restaurateur and a chef and a darn good one at that. And we were talking about like, how many plates do you think you put out between Instagram photos? And I was saying like for us at the cafe, it's somewhere between like 1,000 to 1,500 plates go out before like I'll finally like, oh, I should take a picture of this and pop it online. But in today's marketing world, there are like it's an endless stream of everything that's produced. Gets a picture taken of and put on the internet. And is there a danger in that?
I think there definitely is a danger in oversaturating. One way that specifically in the restaurant and food industry, I see businesses kind of combating that desire to have their staff or their, art squad, whoever they have taking pictures in-house, to kind of combat that is get the user-generated content going.
Sure.
So kind of, encourage customers to be tagging their posts. So you're going to get a unique perspective from the diner's point of view that you can then use as your content to showcase more of the experience-based. Whereas I know some people are getting more and more skeptical of what's put out by businesses because they're like, how staged is this?
Sure.
How likely am I to get a plate that looks exactly like this in the restaurant specifically?
That makes sense. I mean, we, on the back of all the cafe menus, we have our Instagram, our Twitter, and our Facebook handles, which is, it's very, very intentional. And I can say that like, for the first 5 years, maybe the first 4 years of the cafe, I was really, really specific about what went on social media and then what didn't. I wanted to make sure that we were really, really forward thinking about it. But with that, getting users to try and update that content for you, what are some of the perils of that?
You could have somebody commit like slander or libel. I mean, that is always possible. You can deal with negative reactions to an experience, which can also be very powerful positive for a business. Not censoring that content, not deleting or reporting those posts, unless, of course, they're completely just, very ill-founded, very bad in that way. It's something that they just are like, these people are a bunch of racists. There's no context for it, whatever. Like, it's somebody who's never even been to Viroqua.
Sure.
That would be the type of content you can report and be like, come on.
Yeah.
But things where it's somebody who stops into your cafe, I'm not picking on it, but somebody stops in and they're like, the service was super slow. And that's, they don't even leave a review. They just comment on one of your pictures and they're just like, service was slow. You can directly message that person and say, hey, we're a farm to table situation. We're not McDonald's.
Yeah.
This is why we're slow. Make it a learning experience and be like, I'd love if you'd want to stop back in and maybe we could discuss this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's always something that I usually handle. And please, for the love of listeners, do not think that this is an open invitation to tee off on me, because for a chef and restaurateur, I am extremely sensitive. You would be really surprised.
He's crying right now.
I will cry myself to sleep every night. I take it all seriously to the point where I'm not allowed to read online reviews anymore. Like my staff.
That's probably healthy.
Yeah. Like I just can't do it. And I appreciate all the positive ones, and the negative ones, there's something to be still distilled and learned from, but like I can't do it. But in the instances where someone will go on the social media feed and they'll report a bad experience, I'm always really, really proactive about responding to that one personally, getting it off the public forum and into a private messaging situation.
Yep.
And, one of my philosophies of hospitality is we keep the experience moving forward until both parties feel comfortable saying yes. And maybe that means that I acquiesce and we make some, maybe it means that we try another experience. And if that doesn't work and it's just dead in the water, at least we know that we've tried to push that conversation. But it is important. It is important and it's dangerous.
Important and dangerous.
Important and dangerous.
Like fire, snakes.
Snakes are important.
They are. I would say.
Controlling rodent populations,
Yeah,
it's a real thing.
Yeah.
How do you create, speaking of real things, how do you create a real social media marketing campaign? How do you do it?
So I don't have like a big super secret. I mean, this kind of goes with what I said before, like the number one thing about having any sort of social media presence for your business, doesn't matter what platform, doesn't matter if it's going to be free, paid, mixture of both. It starts for me every time 1,000,000% on paper. You sit down with yourself, your team, maybe some people who are like your very valued customers who you really trust their opinion, and you talk about who is your ideal client. That is really difficult, I think, for a lot of business owners that I've talked to specifically about this to grasp. Mm-hmm. Who is your current client? Who are you currently selling to? And that might be different than when you opened your business, what you thought you were going to be selling to or dealing with. In the example of the machine shop that is a client of mine, I'm going to pick on them a lot. They, when they opened their shop, they thought they were going to be doing a lot of new builds for different parts and that kind of thing, doing like mods to existing equipment. And it turned out they do pretty much 100% restoration of antiques, antique equipment, and that really threw them. So when they started having a social media presence, they were asking me, they're like, how do we generate more of this type of people? We want to attract this. I'm like, well, be honest, your audience already exists and you're already cash flowing from this client base. Maybe that's your ideal client. And that took a little bit for them to kind of wrap their business plan around, I guess. And when they did that, being able to create that kind of content and be really intentional with, okay, we're going to be attracting antique owners as opposed to, people wanting new custom parts made. That is a huge shift for what they thought they were going to do, but it ended up being very lucrative to make that shift and make that decision. So take notes about what works when you start out on social media, some form of analytics, but don't get really out in the weeds with it. I encourage most business owners that I work with, once a month, go into Facebook and Instagram and use the analytics that are built in there. Just for most business owners, you don't have 1 million hours to dedicate to that sort of thing. You don't have staff, and you just don't want to waste your time focusing on numbers. You're going to see in your day-to-day use of social media what kind of content trends for your business. What are people commenting on? What are people sharing? And that's, most of the time your gut reaction on that is better than a lot of the analytics, which can end up being really distracting for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that's interesting as far as that goes too is that the Viroqua Chamber Main Street has a pretty major following on social media. Yeah. So we are doing a lot of active posting and very intentional posting on a lot of different subjects. Because we have so many different members, we need to make sure that everybody is feeling a part of the process. So over the weekend, we did a post for an intern because we're going to be recruiting a couple of interns. And although we didn't get a bunch of likes on the post, we got tons of shares. Yes. And we ended up with over 5,000 impressions on just this little awesome interns wanted graphic.
Yeah.
Should you be paying more attention to the impressions or the likes or the shares? What's the most valuable piece when you're paying attention to your marketing?
Yeah.
That's such a good question.
Booyah!
Yeah. We're breaking it down now.
The real talk with Nora.
Nora keeping us on
marketing happens to be my thing. So this is the part that I'm interested in.
So with which piece do you pay attention to? That specifically goes back to defining your goal. So if your goal is to reach a wide audience, get new people to engage with your content, or to spread information in a larger network than you're already reaching just from who is currently following you, shares are the most powerful. So in your case for internship, you were definitely looking to reach people who are already following your account and also their network. And you achieve that by creating content that people want to share. So, if your goal at the restaurant is to have, new people who have never heard of Driftless Cafe stop in, you want to create some content that your loyal followers are going to share on their own profiles, or if they're businesses, on their own business pages. And you'll be reaching a wider network that way. Just super easy. Shares are just... For most business owner goals, I think shares are probably where it's at.
Yeah.
Comments and likes. I personally feel that likes are one of the weaker forms of engagement because it's just so passive and so easy to do. You can accidentally like 90 things just scrolling. Everybody's done it, like accidentally double tapped on something. Oh, it's fine. Just keep scrolling. So likes are a pretty passive form of engagement. Commenting is really good for, if your goal is to get more feedback from your existing followers. You want to get them talking about something, thinking about it a little more. So, if you're a retail store that sells hats and you want to know what types of hats your customers like, you could say, hey, post a picture of you wearing your favorite hat and tell me why you love it from our shop. And, they're posting pictures, they're sharing it with you. You're getting great user-generated content below your original post in the comments stream. And you're also getting them to think about why they like the hat and oh, maybe I should buy another one, or, oh, my sister would like this one too because of this and this. So comments and shares probably the best metrics for most business owner goals. Is that, I don't know if that answers.
No, that's
okay. That totally
that's
answers
legit.
that.
Yeah.
That's good.
So I think on that same level, oh man.
Is the caffeine buzz wearing off?
No.
He just turned slightly green.
Yeah.
It's all that green tea.
Exactly. Watch me just throw up on.
I meant more like a zombie. It's a zombie noise more than a barf noise.
But on that piece, the generating those content likes, generating those content shares, generating comments, Facebook has that boosting feature.
Yes.
Where you kind of pay to play. And I got to say, so the cafe in the first year, right?
Yep.
You used to be able to see on Facebook, businesses in your area.
Yes.
And I had basically highlighted 5 businesses that I wanted to catch up to in Facebook likes. Mm-hmm. And some of them were really, really out there, right?
Yeah.
Like the Veroka Food Co-op. And, within 6 months of targeting marketing on Facebook, using those boost functions, I had more likes. And then now I think the cafe cumulative between my personal page, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, there's 10,000 followers, right?
You're looking at me like I have all the stats.
Yeah, exactly. What are we even doing here?
I know.
If you don't know my bio,
I know. Yeah,
I'm totally kidding. No, but
failure here.
That boosting function, I think, at least in the old Facebook algorithms, was really, really important. Can you talk about why someone might want to consider that?
I have one thing first, though, before she answers that.
Yes.
Go.
Were you boosting your page or the posts?
Yes.
Or both?
That was going to be my first
a really
question.
big piece.
Posts. So individual posts. And I still do from time to time, but there's something that I really want people to pay attention to.
Yeah.
AKA the candlelight dinner,
Yeah.
right? The one that we do for charity.
Right.
I'll boost that post. I'll put a $50 limit on it and then blow it out there. And you used to be able to see where all of that went. Now Facebook has gotten...
You can sort of see.
You can sort of see, but it's not the same level of transparency.
It's definitely not.
Yeah.
This week I'm going to do one for the burger night. We're starting up the Wednesday burger night for charity, and I'm going to blow out those posts, right? I want to spend money on that because I want people to be engaged with it and talk about it.
Yes.
Right.
So boosting posts specifically is a really great introductory way for a business to test out paid marketing on Facebook. So, and Instagram, because you can boost and share across both now. With boosting a post, it's really awesome if you already have a post that's performing well, and Facebook will like start suggesting these things to you as a business, which can be really annoying. Like, no, I'm not going to share a picture of my dog's leg that I posted yesterday. It's not performing that well.
But Caroline, it's a really good picture
of my dog's leg. Yes, I know.
Such a handsome Jack.
Poor Henry.
Henry's your dog?
Yes.
Nora's got a kid named Henry. That's awesome. You guys have that in common.
Yeah. I'm sure your child is much less paranoid than my dog is.
It depends on the situation, I suppose.
Oh, this is good.
Yes, so boosting posts. If you're a business owner and you have, somewhat of a following, even if it's really small, by whatever standard you want to gauge that, there is a really powerful option for you to share your content. So if you have a post that's performing really well, or has information that you want to get out there further, hit boost, set your budget. How Luke was mentioning, you can set $50 or whatever. There's a minimum budget for promoted posts, boost posts of $1 a day for how long you want to boost it. And you can set a time frame, or you can set an overall budget for boosting the post. When you do that, you can choose if you want to just push it to your existing followers, if you want to push it to a wider range, or if you want to define your own audience, which, Facebook can kind of walk you through some of that. And there's lots of great resources online on how to define your audience within Facebook for boosting a post. Again, it all goes back to being really honest with yourself about who your audience is. How old are they? Do they work? What gender are they? Does that matter? Where do they live? Do they have kids? Those sorts of questions. Answer them. Facebook will ask you again to answer them. Boost your post and just kind of see what happens with that first one. Set a small budget and just try it out.
Well, and what's interesting about the boosting too, some of the things that we've found at the Viroqua Chamber Main Street that we were not prepared for was, we're boosting something for an age range of 18 to 65, male and female, different audiences. And what we've found is that women are paying the most attention to the things that we're doing across the board, regardless, pretty much all of the events in the 25 to 34 age category. So it's been a really valuable tool for us to try to start targeting some of the marketing through that data. And the data is also consistent with our website data, which is what makes it even more interesting.
Yeah. So, and like Nora was saying, you can learn where your strengths are in your existing marketing campaign and where your weaknesses are. So if Chambermain has the beer walk, you have that kind of event, which is a little bit, maybe more male targeted.
No, not at all. No, that's the interesting thing. We were positive that the beer walk would be more guys, young men, and it was young women.
Interesting. Yep. Just engaging on the post, or that actually came out?
Engaging in the post and actually coming out.
Interesting.
So it was both things. So there's actually like a huge social media presence for women who are into craft beer, because I started getting contacted by people who have their own clubs for craft beer, who are women. They travel all over the state. So it's things like that you find out from boosting that you never would have known.
Yeah, you can learn a lot about your audience from a boosted post, or just kind of like an experimental ad that you run.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. One of the things that I think too about that, targeting that demographic, at the restaurant, we knew that Madison initially was our target market. We could see the Facebook analytics and the Google analytics. But we have actually seen it trend differently now. And that's something at the chamber that we talk about a lot. When we previous to the last 3-4 years, Nora, what was the demographic that was really interested in engaging with Viroqua?
50 to 64.
Right.
Male.
Male 50 to 64. So people checking it out. Where are we at now? What does it look like?
It's mostly women 25 to 34.
That's interesting.
And
just
it's a huge shift. So I've got the Google Analytics, and then we have all of the data from social media as well. And both of them are leading to the same answer. So it's really interesting. That means that potentially what we can gather from that data is that women in that age category are making decisions for their families, their
on what they're doing,
significant
what they're
others, whatever it is. Yeah.
That is very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's this time of year when it's a little slower in the cafe. We see tons of people who are in there for the first time, and it's very, very obvious that the female component of the table is dragging their significant other out to dinner. I've read about this place. I want to dine there. So those are for us. That's like a real impression that we want to be able to capitalize on and really cement. Like, you know, if you can knock it out of the park for those tables, those are the repeat customers that keep coming back and back and back and back.
Definitely.
What about mistakes? Like, oh my gosh, we talked a little bit about, you know, your dog's leg. You know, I always think that politics is a mistake on social media stuff, specifically as it pertains to a business. What do you got? What are your mistakes?
So my mistakes, I kind of like took a little bit of notes because I thought this was like such a good question. And mine that I listed are a lot more content related and just use related. I didn't really dive into the issue of like, do post about politics, don't post about politics, because what I think makes small businesses special is the human element of them. And this is, I mean, me personally as a consumer, I don't care if I agree or disagree with your politics. If a business chooses to post them, I think that's a powerful use of their existence as a small business. You know, that's different than Starbucks deciding they're going to have just red cups for holidays as opposed to Christmas cups. And, you know, that's a political statement that a chain is making.
Sure.
Versus, you know, an individual coffee shop saying we're only going to play Little Drummer Boy for 6 months straight because we love that song. You know,
that is the worst
that's
Christmas
literally
carol.
The worst Christmas song.
Just quick poll here.
Yes. I can think of worse.
Really?
Yeah. Well,
like
I
what?
can think of one.
All day long?
David Bowie, Bing Crosby, Little Drummer Boy is the top of every list
like
that I would
hate.
Oh, and I love David Bowie and I love Bing Crosby, but like together, no. What do you got? Quickly.
I'm thinking like Mariah Carey Christmas or like, I mean, those things are
pretty cringy.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty bad. I remember working in a record store when that came out, and the amount of copies that we actually went through was pretty...
Was it like, did you just like lose your faith in humanity a little bit?
Well, working in a record store in general is a really interesting dive into the human
experience. Yeah, for sure.
In every way.
I bet.
Yeah. But what do you got, Carolyn? Like what?
Little Drummer Boy. The why I said it was because I mean, there's a few other ones that I.
How about Paul McCartney simply having a wonderful Christmas time?
Yeah, that one like irks
simply
me.
having a wonderful Christmas time.
Was it like our family like Christmas? My dad has an epic stereo system from like the 80s.
Yeah.
That he traded his brother a pickup truck for.
Whoa.
That. Yeah. No, it was a big deal. And like my sister and I like grew up fighting over who got to set up the, you know, the 6 CD changer.
Yeah.
So we like, it was very early in.
How many discs were Bon Jovi?
Not many. My parents were really into REM, Depeche Mode.
That's cool.
I grew up listening to Talking Heads.
Hipsters.
Yeah. Totally.
Why am I here?
Yeah.
Why am I shouting?
If we had to like do a massive cleaning of the house, my dad had Stop Making Sense, the concert movie on VHS, and we would turn that on in the stereo and on the TV as loud as it would possibly go, and like old house, so like the windows are shaking.
Yeah.
Like, that is the music of youth.
So that's how you ended up in Viroqua.
That is exactly no, it's not. My I keep telling my dad like just sell the farm and move to Viroqua. You would like it.
Yeah,
but
right.
I don't think it's gonna happen.
Lots of Talking Heads fans here
for sure.
Okay,
Totally.
so
Yes.
Mistakes, like, run-on sentences in a podcast and
Oh yeah.
no
and,
segues and
talking about Little Drummer Boy.
No, seriously, go ahead.
And Mariah Carey Christmas.
Yeah. I'm just like getting hives. So the top.
I can just picture the cover. Sorry.
Nora's having like a little therapy section back there. So the top mistakes that I listed are: one, refusing to use social media until you get a website, or saying we need a website first. As a business, you don't. Kind of hand in hand with that is saying I'll use social media instead of a website. That's a whole different discussion. But thinking that one is directly related to the other, they're not. Definitely, if you're a new business, claim your social media presence in case somebody else steals the name, which happens.
Yes, it does.
Even if you don't want to use Twitter, reserve your Twitter handle, put your profile picture in it, push your post from Facebook to it once a week. Even if you never check it again, that's fine. Yeah. Don't think that a website and social media are like completely and directly related. Like that's a big mistake. Not claiming or fact checking your Google listing. That's, it probably should have been number one. I see a lot of area businesses, like one, for example, I live in Cashton, and when we first moved there, I was looking at our house on Google Earth, and it said that our house was one of the bars. Our house
awesome.
is not that bar. So I reported the incorrect, and it just had our street address as the bar's address. And that is a simple, like, if you're a business owner, just Google your business and see where you fall on the map. Is it correct? Great. Make sure you claim your business so you can control the hours, because anyone can go in and amend your Google listing even after you claim it, which kind of sucks. But people can go in and review it and add pictures, and that's really cool and very powerful. Obviously, if you want to be ranked high on Google, claiming that is the first step. And you can kind of control the conversation a little bit if you say, hey, I am actually at this physical location and I'm open these days. Just set a calendar alarm or write it in your planner quarterly to go in and make sure at minimum quarterly, make sure that your business listing is still accurate, that no one's messed with it, that there's, pictures people are posting are appropriate and of your business. And Google does a pretty good job of moderating that, but why not take it into your own hands and just own it? We talked about number 3 on my list a little bit. Which was what? Posting for your industry and not your clients. Yeah. Unless your goal is to make industry connections. If you really need to connect with other kombucha makers for whatever reason and you are a kombucha company, like, great. If that's your goal as a business, there's ways to do that. But I see a lot of small business owners are creating content that, it relates to other restaurant owners, other, not somebody who's going to be spending money at their place, most likely.
Right.
Not replying to comments, messages, reviews, or recommendations, even if they're negative. Lots of business owners will create a Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, and then they, business owners are busy and they don't check back in. To get a following, if you are just creating social media presences to avoid John Doe stealing your domain name or your handle, and you really don't intend to use it as a marketing tool, that's fine. And you don't want to go check your comments, okay, sure. But if you're like, I really want to have a good, engaged community online about my brand, and I want to have a following that's active and results in sales, the most powerful thing that you can do for the algorithm and your placement in people's feeds, because businesses are kind of suppressed on Facebook and Instagram as how they appear in a feed of just, a person. The number one thing that you can do to raise your ranking is to reply to comments quickly. The first 10 minutes are really crucial after you make a post. If you're getting comments, messages related to that post, or shares in the first 10-ish minutes, that's what the algorithm really feeds off of. And probably by the time this is posted, that'll change because it changes all the time.
Yeah.
But just, you know, on a human level, if you post a question in a comment and it doesn't get answered for 2 years, you're like, okay, this business is dead to me. You know, people are looking for kind of some instant feedback. And if they take the time to comment, even if it's negative, you want to engage with that as quickly as you can. And that'll, even if it's negative, even if you're dealing with something that's a really grumpy patron, that's going to improve your rankings within the algorithm for your existing loyal followers. And number 5 is the other big mistake I see, not cleaning your phone on your camera.
Oh, yeah. Right?
Like it takes 15-ish seconds to just take your t-shirt and really scrub that grungy camera off, because like you use your phone as a phone and you have your hand over the camera lens, and you know, if you have like an actual camera, you know, with a lens, you're going to want to scrub that before you're out doing a photo shoot. If you have a photographer, you expect them to have a clean lens. If you're generating content that you're taking pictures off your phone and you're not cleaning your camera lens, it just has like a kind of a filmed appearance, like a layer of grease action. Yeah. And you're not going to get the best quality image.
I know that one from shooting photos in the kitchen during dinner service.
I bet you just get so grimy.
Exactly, and like you're doing it really, really fast because 9 times out of 10, those are customer plates that I'm putting out.
Yeah, okay.
I'm like, oh, this is kind of pretty, so like I'm just gonna quick frame it up and take that extra 20 seconds. But oh my gosh, so many of them. Like at the end of the night when I go to post it, it just looks like you've got the beer goggles on or something.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
This looks so good.
Yes.
Ugh.
Totally. And then, you know, kind of with that bad pics thing is you're also not leveraging user images. So check who's tagging you on Instagram. It's really easy to do. You go to your own profile. There's a little button off to the right that shows a square with like a person in it. Click on that. That's where you get a little populated feed of people who are tagging you in their photos, and you can use that image on your own feed. It's kind of like a little bit of social media etiquette. I would always definitely message the person and say, I'm stealing this picture you took.
Yeah, exactly.
In my place, or I'm featuring it. That's probably a nicer way to say it. Can we feature your image on our feed?
Yeah.
You know, definitely tag them, and a little bit of goodwill goes a long way.
Sure. What are some of your favorite pages? Like, do you have favorite pages that might inspire people who are listening to this podcast?
Wow, that I wrote down a couple, but I'm looking at them now and I'm like, when I use social media as a business, so for Bad Axe Enterprises, when I'm using that account, I'm looking at very different pages than when I just use social media for Carolyn for fun, which I'm pretty much usually looking at pictures of sheep and yarn when I use Instagram for fun.
Really? Is that like a thing?
Well, I like the fiber arts. So,
okay, cool.
Yeah, that's not just like
and sheep too, just to see.
I'm very like pro wool. That's a whole other soapbox. But
pro wool. I'm pro wool.
Yeah.
I love wool.
Yeah, I'm pro wool. I like using wool in my fiber arts activities.
Sure.
So yeah, sheep pictures come naturally.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I've got some good jokes for you once we stop recording here.
I grew up on a farm, so like the sheep and farmer jokes are really like, there's a lot of them that are vastly inappropriate.
Which is why we're going to stop the recording.
Nora's shaking her head.
Exactly.
She's censoring
because I've
us.
heard all of the jokes.
Oh yeah.
What? You've heard all of them, you think?
Even the
I've heard
bad ones.
Yeah, bad ones. Okay, so the fiber arts, the wool, those are the ones that would. But like, what are you talking about for like Bad Axe? If you're
so for Bad Axe, when I'm using social media, my like number one thing is I'm looking for business owners that are in the area. which is kind of funny because, you know, a lot of times the ones that I would target as a client don't have social media presences because, you know, I want to help with that and, you know, kind of get them flying online. But I use the post put out by Driftless Business a lot. That's an Instagram account that's managed by a mysterious person that I'm still trying to figure out who it is.
Yeah, me too.
I think I've had like a few people say, "Is that you?"
Right.
And I'm like, "No, it's not," but I wish it was. It's such a good idea.
Yep.
So if you're listening, Driftless Business, message me. I want to talk.
Yeah, Driftless Business. Inquiring minds want to know.
We all want to know. But they, you know, feature people who use the hashtag Driftless Business. So that's where recently I've been finding business contacts, people to follow, people who have really awesome feeds already in the area. Like, I mean, there's some, I guess, for like local ones that are super on brand, I guess I would say. A lot of the pop-up shops that came out this year, Viroqua Baking Company, her feed just, I mean, makes me starving every time I look at her stuff. But, you know, already out there creating really good content that's very on brand and has that very personal voice. Her stuff is great. Laura's stuff is really awesome. Trying to think of other ones off the top of my head. The Bonton Millinery Apartments. They're a very quirky gift shop downtown Viroqua, and their posts are just totally spot on of what their personalities are. Best example of using user-generated content for the area, I think, is probably Pasture Pride Cheese. Like, shameless plug for Cashton here.
Yeah.
But yeah. Pasture
Monroe County in the house.
That's right. I'm here. I'm repping every day. But they, you know, really encourage people to tag them, and they share those posts regularly and get really great content that makes you want to go eat their cheese. Yeah. Which is cool. And that's their goal, and they're crushing it. Totally.
Right. Cashton. Represent.
Crushing it 24/7.
Well, you've been listening to Carolyn Zick. Zick, did I get that right?
Zick, yeah.
Zick, awesome. Yeah. Of Bad Axe Enterprises. And we've been talking about social media basically raising the game, so to speak. Anything else you want to add, Nora? You've been silent here. I've been segueing way too much.
No, you're doing great. I don't think so. I think we've covered most of the things that are really important. I think it's really critical for people not to be too intimidated by social media and to seek out people like Carolyn who are really comfortable using it if they have questions or other needs. I think it's an important way to be able to really check on how your business or your entity is doing and to get a sense for who's paying attention to your messaging. So
absolutely.
You know, there's a reason that they call all the hashtagging and stuff the Instagram effect. You know, it's having an effect on everything from tourism to purchasing decisions. So it's a very big deal, and it's something that small businesses need to take advantage of.
Yeah. And I mean, another like random little piece of advice, if you see a business that you feel like, wow, they really know what they're doing on social media, I wouldn't be afraid to message them. The worst they can do is like not have time and don't respond or say, don't talk to me ever again, which I have not really found anyone in the Driftless region that's mean. I'm not.
Oh, they're out there.
I'm sure. I'm not looking for it. But anytime that I've had a question about stuff for my day job, kind of being in a more corporate social media setting, using social media as Bank of Cashton, whenever I've had questions about, compliance, things like that, I have reached out to other community bankers who, have a social media presence, and the response has always been very kind. Yeah. And I mean, that's in the super exciting world of banking. Like, yeah, I'm sure small business owners are going to be like even more forthcoming and kind. About questions that you have about social media. even just asking if they're in a similar industry, like what's working for you? Have you ever tried paid ads?
Yeah.
What happened?
Exactly.
Yeah, those kinds of things. Like, don't be afraid to reach out.
So if I'm a listener and in my mind, I'm going to Caroline, and I'm thinking that I want to be able to get a hold of you because I have questions or maybe a potential project that you might be interested in. How do I get a hold of you?
Well, I'm not going to give you my cell phone number. Just out.
Keep it creepy. Come on.
Keep it creepy. Well, I mean, like, you can always message Bad Axe Enterprises on Instagram. That's at BadAXE Enterprises on Instagram. You can also find on Facebook, same handle. I really don't use Twitter, but I do have one.
Yeah.
So I'm not even going to really... It basically just recycles posts from other things. I kept it so I could have the name.
Yeah.
And my website is badaxeenterprises.com.
Okay.
And there's also a resources page on there if all of this like made your head spin and you want some free printable things to help you work through who is your ideal client. Bad Enterprises/resources. Shameless plug.
That's awesome.
That's what this is about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on the 54665, all things rural economic development, all things Viroqua, and today, all things marketing. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you for having me. Bye.